the memories that were unlocked with Blobbyvision are both amazing and kind of terrifying. This was released in 1994, and I had kind of forgotten pretty much all of this, and Blobby was on my list of shows to review from when I was younger. I'm watching the first episodes of TV shows I grew up with, and in my mind there was a Mr. Blobby, like, proper TV series. That doesn't appear to be the case, but I did rediscover the existence of Blobbyvision. And I have to say, on the one hand, it is traumatizing, but on the other, there's a great amount of variety in this. There's a lot going on in about an hour, and I will basically very quickly go through all of the different things that are in this, just to highlight how varied it is. There are a couple where I have some in-depth thoughts, and basically, I would... I want to say that if I had a child, I wouldn't show them this, because I genuinely find it to be really creepy. But as a child, I watched this a lot. And I don't think I'm that mentally scarred by it, who knows? But it's certainly a very interesting thing, and it is ludicrous. But I would love to know, if you never grew up watching Mr. Blobby, if you've never really seen any proper Mr. Blobby, maybe you've seen brief clips and things, but if you've never taken the time to watch Mr. Blobby, please go and check out this or any other Blobby film or Blobby show from the 90s. I'd love to know what you think of it, approaching it for the first time as somebody who's not the target audience. Because if I didn't have the nostalgia and I watched this for the first time, I can honestly say I would have had many, many questions. And I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it. But watching it now, it was a beautiful nostalgic experience. And if you grew up watching this and you haven't seen it in a long time, I'd say go back and watch it with an adult perspective. I think it's a very different experience, but the nostalgia is absolutely gorgeous. Basically, Blobbyvision is Blobby's own TV show. Mr. Blobby has his own TV channel, and we have various sketches and clips and newsreels, and I will, as I said, go through them and share some thoughts. The nostalgia started before the programme even began, because we have the classic warning certificate that we get at the start of VHSs and things, and Blobby is in the background with some bizarre sound effects, and it's such a disturbing way to start things. But again, I loved this growing up, so it can't be as traumatizing as I feel it might have been. We then have a Postman Pat parody with Mr. Blobby delivering post. He then eats cake, and then we have one that I had completely forgotten about, and as soon as it happened, well, as soon as the clip started, I knew what was going to happen, and the nostalgia was just amazing. Blobby is playing snooker. It could be pool, not 100% sure, can't remember, but he's playing snooker with a broom, a brush, and he rips the green off the top of the table, and it's so ridiculous, but clearly it appealed to me as a child. We then have Blobby getting stuck on a fireman pole, and then we have a brief casualty parody, and then we have the sports segment. And interestingly, and I say this, it's probably not that interesting, but I'd say 90% of the rest of the clips in this I instantly recognised. I could instantly remember them. That wasn't the case with any of the sports clips. We have wrestling, we have Blobby the jockey, we have Blobby playing golf, and none of those gave me nostalgia at all, not even a tiny bit. And I'm not into sports. That wouldn't have appealed to me as a child either. And I wonder if I genuinely just did not pay attention to those parts of the tape when I was younger, because they're the only bits that I didn't remember. I find that to be rather fascinating. We then get a kind of Baywatch parody, and we're on the beach. And to begin with, that's not too bad. I think it was a nice setting. We have some other human characters involved in this one as well. And we then have Noel Edmonds. Noel Edmonds is, of course, in this quite frequently. And the female Blobby presenting the news. And then Blobby presents the weather. And we then have a game of That's My Date, which is kind of like blind date, and Mr. Blobby is then flying. The special effects are, well, lacking in a lot of ways, but it's charming. It is charming. We then have Mastermind, and this would have been my introduction to mastermind, which is concerning. And actually, I couldn't remember how that part played out. I could remember the actual clip. I could remember Blobby sitting beside the two contestants, and it went in a direction I wasn't expecting. And I was rather pleasantly surprised by that. We also, I think this is out of order, but we go back to the beach. I think that was a little bit before then, and the female Mrs. Blobby is the female Blobby is there, and it came back to me as soon as I saw it, and there's something deeply disturbing about female Blobby being stuck inside tires, being rolled down the beach. It's very, very bizarre. And then we get a Keeping Up Appearances parody. Well, not even a parody, it is actually Keeping Up Appearances, and Mr. Blobby happens to be in the episode or the clip, which I thought was an absolute delight. We then get a parody of Last of the Summer Wine and a couple of infomercials for Slimming Shake. And I remember looking at that Slimming Shake and thinking it looked delicious. I used to drink a lot of Nesquik, the powder that you put in milk, and I think it just reminded me of that. And I just had the same sensation when I was watching it again. And then we have a couple more parodies of an antique show and Robin Hood and Jurassic Park. And there's a lot of variety to this. Evidently, there's so much going into this. And I have to say, I really need to praise the creativity. It is mad. The madness is incredible. I would have loved to have been in the room when they first started to pitch this and they first started to come up with the various ideas for situations Blobby could be in. Actually, more interestingly, I'd love to know which ideas they rejected, because some of these I feel like should have been left on the cutting room floor. I don't know if they did film anything else that didn't make it, but I'd love to know if they did, or indeed if somebody suggested something and they thought, no, that's maybe a little bit too bizarre. I'd love to know what was rejected. But the nostalgia is absolutely amazing. And honestly, I loved watching it. I don't think I'll ever watch it again, at least not for maybe another couple more decades. I probably haven't seen this in 2.5 decades, maybe. And the fact that I could remember pretty much all of it once I started watching it is either a sign that it's very memorable or that I watched it constantly, probably a little bit of both. That being said, if I had a child, a human child, I don't think I'd show them it. It's not so much that it's inappropriate, it's more just that I find it very uncomfortable in a lot of ways. It's very bizarre. But if you are an adult and you've never seen it and you want to know what on earth this is about, check out Blobbyvision. It is certainly an experience.